some more speed records in this day and age. You need coverage.
Coverage? Oh, you mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
Many of you know that quote by Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men, "You can't handle the truth." Well, you can, and Event Horizons will give you those truths. So when you're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore from that memorable senior network, you'll know just what to do. We will draw you in and become your news addiction at Event Horizons. Join us Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time at freedomslips.com at Revolution Radio. Our world team members are Dennis Fetcho, John Ilias, David Dunger, Hyla Cass, MD, Melanie Vrichton, Jim Mars, Paula Harris, John Trallo, Maria Payan, Christopher Husser, DODDS, Jonathan Orchard, and me, your anchor, Dr. Robin Falco.
If you decide not to volunteer, it will not be held against you in any way.
Sounds dangerous.
It is. Very dangerous.
Count me in.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps.
Enjoy your extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another
Extra big-ass fries.
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please
What?
come back when you can afford to make a purchase. I'm sorry you're having
Come
trouble.
on. My kids are starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning, how to do everything website, all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What are we doing live? It goes in eternity.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Well, welcome to Esoteric Truth Radio on Revolution Radio, and I'm your host, Trinity, and I'm so happy that you're here. This is my 4th show, and I've spent as much time as I can getting certain truths out there. And though I'm not what you would consider mainstream, I want to make a few things very clear to those who are either friends or enemies in this world and this struggle we share called truth. One is that there are plenty of people out there that can and will tell you that they have all the answers. They will show you in as many ways as well, from only 3 payments of $49.95 to the collective thought process of meditation and even a few homeopathic remedies. And though this works for many people, This isn't what this show is going to be about, and I hope there are a few people out there that are really, really listening. This is about the struggle for people like myself, those of us that have been through the many steps to truth and who have strived more than others and found themselves struggling to raise others up as well. But in doing so, are finding it harder and harder to help others and themselves. Those of us that struggle with having to walk away from negativity, false prophets from either books or videos, or even things we're taught our entire lives. I was asked recently how I felt about researching for many years and finding myself in the same places. And I find that it happens to many of us, where we know there are more things to learn, but get bombarded by mainstream thoughts and ideas, and want to throw our hands in the air and surrender. Well, I'm here to say, hell no. No, I will not surrender. No, I will not fit into your box. And no, I will not fit into your mind frame of what a woman is and what a woman is supposed to say. No, I will not go make you a sandwich, dictate your notes like a secretary, or play second fiddle in life. This particular show is dedicated not just to the truth seekers struggling to weed themselves apart from the mockery that has become some truthers out there. They're either looking into Bigfoot feces or had an alien make them pancakes. And before anyone gets their tinfoil hat into a bunch, those are true stories that are currently being spread so that stories that some share are overshadowed. I'm making it my very reason to be on Revolution Radio, to bring up in your face topics, things that will cause you to either love me or hate me. But I will be in your thoughts, in your private conversations, and I'm hoping more than ever to be a problem for those who refuse to be honest and forthright in what needs to be shared so that we can eventually tell those in power that this is no longer the place where the BS flies, and that we are in fact a force to be reckoned with. And that all in all, those who are no longer afraid to share and tell truth, that the minions in the mainstream and the infomercials that they have working on their behalf on television and the news media will be silenced with truth, by truth, and for truth. So, thanks for letting me get that part out. Now, let's make some people in power very, very uncomfortable. And if I sound a little sick, I think I'm coming down with something, so please bear with me. But before I go on, I will tell you, no one is trying to kill us off. There's not going to be a war that will wipe us all out. There is nothing of that sort going to happen. Because when you do your research, you will see that they are just changing us, not killing us. Why would they want power and there's no one to give it to them? Of course, there are casualties of this. Remaking of the human race. We are in a bubble and being watched. We are in desperate need, according to the powers that be, to be re-educated, changed, easier to conform. So please listen to the show and have an open mind to what is really going on. With the influx of racism, police brutality, and worldwide epidemic of racial stupidity, I decided to bring up a subject that surprisingly many did not know. This is based on a paper that I wrote back in 2013 called Human Zoos, Science's Dirty Little Secret. Of course, I know, sure, there's no real big gasp concerning that title, as if you've been listening to my show, that is not surprising, and it's even less surprising that I wrote about it a few years back. But what's actually surprising was that no one ever really discussed it or ever even knew of its existence. So let's go into the time machine that was purposely covered up so that we wouldn't find it. Human zoos, what were we trying to do? Besides the confusion and ignorance of many that are unaware of other cultures and diversity, it is not just money that people wanted. But in most, if not all of these cases, there were scientists, zoologists, doctors, etc., that were looking to use this opportunity to show the major difference between the races of the world. Not the way that we see them now in museums or textbooks, or even National Geographic. This was a form of human rights violations that occurred when no one stood up, because this was in the name of knowledge of what we don't know and we're afraid to find out. Now, this is a snippet from a society page concerning what was actually going on in our time. So it says here, during a dark period of world history, intellectuals pondered where to draw the line between human and animal. They arrayed humans from the lightest to the darkest skin, believing that Africans were ape-like. They weren't sure whether to include apes as humans or Africans as apes. One artifact of this thinking was the human zoo. Kidnapped from their homes at the end of the 19th century and onto the next, hundreds of indigenous people were put on display for white Westerners to view. Often they were displayed in villages built in zoos specifically for the show. According to a Spiegel Online sent in by a reader and a writer, quote, but they were also made to perform on stage for the amusement of a paying public. Many died quickly, being exposed to diseases foreign to them. A German named Karl Hagenbeck was among the more famous men involved in human zoos. He would go on expeditions in foreign countries and bring back both animals and people for European collections. In his memoirs, he spoke of his involvement with pride, writing, quote, it was my privilege to be the first in the civilized world to present these shows of different races. And the zoo in Hamburg still bears his name. Now, this just wasn't in the US, and many of the things that were learned were not just a few remote places where no one would ask questions. This was the beginning, not to say this wasn't happening earlier, but of what began to separate our societies. And until we see what could be the cause of fear of not just other cultures, or diverse groups and places we have lived, but we're afraid because there was always something to be afraid of. If you find this ridiculous, then wait till you find the book online. It's called The Invention of the Savage, Human Zoos, and the cover is heartbreaking in itself. Here's a bit from the book. The text traces the presentation and degradation of many non-Western cultures as they were presented to the Western world. Beginning with a chapter about the rise of the freak show, the text wins through the melancholy story of the dehumanization of Asian, African, Native American, Indian, and other cultures as the West explored, conquered, and claimed vast portions of the globe. Among the other choice information to be found and viewed is rarely voiced perspectives of none other than P.T. Barnum, yes, from Barnum and Bailey Circus, by the way, and other showmen of the time, demonstrating how such spectacles of a sideshow began a debasement of humankind, culminating in the placement of savages in actual zoos alongside the animals. Now, I could bring up tons and tons of people, but there were two very famous cases. One of them, his name was Ata Benga. And I got this little bit from him on Wikipedia. You can find it yourself. And of course, if you look up the book, you will be able to find the PDF there and many articles concerning this. So a little bit about Benga. In 1904, Ata Benga was brought to the United States by the missionary and explorer Samuel Phillips Verner. Verner had been hired by the St. Louis World's Fair to bring back pygmies for one of their ethnographic exhibits. Verner's story is recounted by his grandson, Philip Verner Bradford, in the book Ata Benga, The Pygmy in the Zoo. According to this account, Verner purchased Ata Benga from African slave traders. His wife and children had been killed in a massacre. Verner bought Benga, 7 other pygmies, and a young Congolese man to St. Louis, where they proved to be one of the most popular attractions at the fair. The crowds gawked, jeered, and at one point threw mud pies at the human exhibit. From St. Louis, the group traveled to New Orleans just in time for Mardi Gras, and finally back to Africa. Benga, expressing a desire to learn to read, asked Verner to take him with him when the explorer returned home. Verner and Ata Benga arrived in New York in August of 1906. Verner, looking for a place for Benga to live, finally brought him to the Bronx Zoo, where at first he walked the grounds and helped the workers. But in early September, it was decided to move Benga's hammock into an orangutan cage, where he was encouraged to play with the orangutan and weave caps out of straw and to shoot his bow and arrow. The zoo was encouraged by prominent eugenicist and head of the New York Zoological Society, Madison Grant, and he will be coming up later on in this discussion, and a sign soon read, the African pygmy Ata Benga, age 23 years old, height 4 feet 11 inches, weight 103 pounds, bought from the Kasai River, Congo Free State, South Central Africa, by Dr. Samuel Verner, exhibited each afternoon during September. Hold on one second. Okay, I hope that humming went away. I apologize, I did not know. Okay, and the second one, and this one is just as heartbreaking, but I wanted to bring up that a lot of what's going on today comes from a lot of this. This was very early on in the beginning of the 19th century. This was by prominent doctors and everything else. This wasn't a bunch of conspiracy theorists, making such claims or anything like that. But it's more terrifying that we have a division today and we never really discuss where that division came from. We're not born racist. We're not born hating anyone. We're just You don't just wake up one day and say, oh, you know what, all of a sudden I just don't like other people. It's not how it works. But when you realize that this is part of our history, our real history, and our recent history, it completely changes how we see things, how we see schooling, how we see the information that we take in, and how we see how we treat each other today. So we have Sarah Bartman. Now, about Sarah Bartman, she was the most famous of at least two Khoikhoi women who were exhibited as a freak show attraction in the 19th century Europe under the name Hottentot Venus. Now, Hottentot, as the then current name for the Khoi people, now considered an offensive term, and Venus in reference to the Roman goddess of love. Sarah Bartman displayed as a freak because of her unusual physical features, was finally laid to rest 187 years after she left Cape Town for London. Her remains were buried on Women's Day, August 9th of 2002, in the area of her birth in the Gapmos River Valley in the Eastern Cape. Bartman was born in 1789. She was working as a slave in Cape Town when she was discovered by British ship's Dr. William Dunlop, who persuaded her to travel with him to England, and will never know what she had in mind when she stepped on board, of her own free will, a ship for London. But it is clear what Dunlop had in mind: to display her as a freak, a scientific curiosity, and make money from these shows, some of which he promised to give to her. Bartman had unusually large buttocks and genitals, and in the early 1800s, Europeans were arrogantly obsessed with their own superiority and with proving that others, particularly blacks, were inferior and oversexed. Bartman's physical characteristics, not unusual for the Khoisan women, although her features were larger than normal, were evidence of this prejudice, and she was treated like a freak exhibit in London. She was called the Hottentot Venus, Hottentot being name given to the people with cattle. They had acquired these cattle by migrating northwards to Angola and returned to South Africa with them, about 2,000 years before the first European settlement at the Cape in 1652. So prior to this, they were indistinguishable from Bushmen or the San, the first inhabitants of South Africa, who had been in the region from around 100,000 years as hunter-gatherers. I know I'm throwing all of this other information in there, by the way, because it may seem kind of boring to some people. I have to tell you that the way to truly understand, and I didn't mean to even go off on this one really quick, but just to understand not just some of the backstory, but explaining things the way that they were. This did not only happen to some people. I'm literally talking about every race on the planet has been dealt with in certain ways. And as I explained in the beginning, this was because of what we're going through today. So just wanted to throw that in there anyway. Okay, so Venus is the Roman goddess of love, a cruel reference to Bartman being an object of admiration and adoration instead of the object of leering and abuse that she became. A man by the name of Cuvier made a plaster cast of her body, then removed her skeleton, and after removing her brain and genitals, pickled them and displayed them in bottles at the Musée de l'Homme in Paris. Now, that was written in a South African news article, which can be found online as well. I will also add that she also remained on display till 1974. The then President Nelson Mandela asked for her to be brought back to Africa in 1994. And then, only in January of 2002, Sarah Bartman's remains were returned and buried. And right now, they're at the Hanky in the East Cape province, and her grave has since been declared a National Heritage Site. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring her up is because I wanted a male and female perspective concerning this. But also because there's something that her display and the photos that you can find of her online, and a lot of the women that were taken because of their physical attributes. If you look at the pictures, or if you look at the pose, it's the exact pose that today, people are still doing online. If you ever see a picture of a woman and has her back facing the camera, she turns to the side and she has a butt out, that's the exact style that they had her photo in. They don't even understand that this is something that has been promoted, but they don't know where that pose, I'm not saying that people can't come up with poses, but when you see the similarities on how we take things and how we treat ourselves. That's not opposed to show that you're beautiful or that you have a big butt. That's opposed to tell people how they need to think about you or how you represent yourself. And to think that somebody was used, mutilated, and then on display. And mind you, this is 2015. In 2002, they decided to do something about this. That's how recent and why I wanted to bring up this particular topic. I think that it's super important. And when I start getting into it a little further, I think you guys will see this a little bit from a different perspective. Now, if those cases aren't horrific enough, like I said, I will now explain why this should matter to all of us, no matter your social status, your race, where you live on this planet. Because due to the success of this, it grew into something far more sinister. This would be called eugenics, and even today has been renamed genetics. Here's the man who brought this into the mainstream, by the way, and who later began talking, sharing, and actually being the authority on what would be the most horrific of almost all future crimes against humanity in the name of science, and then teach it to those in the most prestigious colleges and university. He was also an author of 2 books. One was American Racialism, The Passing of the Great Race, that was in 1916, and The Conquest of a Continent, and that was in 1933. That would later be the authority on how we treat each other. So I had brought up Madison Grant having a huge part of how Otabenga, even though they brought him down here, was the reason why they actually put him in a cage based on his work. So Madison Grant was an American lawyer known primarily for his work as a eugenicist and conservationist. As a eugenicist, Grant was responsible for one of the most famous works of scientific racism and played an active role in crafting strong immigration restriction and anti-immigration laws in the United States. As a conservationist, Grant was credited with the saving of many different species of animals, founding many different environmental organizations, and even developing much of the discipline of wildlife management that we still use to this day. Similar ideas were proposed by Gustav Cosina in Germany. Grant promoted the idea of the Nordic race, a loosely defined biological culture group rooted in Scandinavia as the key social group responsible for human development. Thus, the subtitle of the book was The Racial Basis of European History. As an avid eugenicist, Grant further advocated the separation, quarantine, and eventual collapse of so-called undesirable traits and worthless race types from the human gene pool, and the promotion, spread, and eventual restoration of desirable traits and worthwhile race types, conducive to Nordic society. A rigid system of selection through the elimination of those who are weak or unfit, in other words, social failures, would solve the whole question in 100 years, as well as enable us to get rid of the undesirables who crowd our jails, hospitals, and insane asylums. Before I read on, I'm sorry, this is an actual quote from him. Before I go, the individual himself can be nourished, educated, and protected by the community during his lifetime, but the state, through sterilization, must see to it that his line stops with him, or else future generations will be cursed by an ever-increasing load of misguided sensationalism. This is a practical, merciful, and inevitable solution to the whole problem, and can be applied to an ever-widening circle of social discards, beginning always with the criminal, the diseased, and the insane, and even extending gradually to types which may be called weaklings rather than defectives, and perhaps ultimately the worthless racist types. Now, if that's not offending everyone, it will. Okay, not only was Grant's works and the beginning of the arrival of immigrants go hand in hand and open up an array of would-be writers and movie directors with such books as 1905's Thomas Dixon's The Klansman debut, but right after came the movie Birth of a Nation, which was arguably based on Dixon's other book called The Leopard Spots. Now, this kind of publicity turned what some thought of as a race thing into a eugenics thing very quickly and without people finding out. This would actually be the new basis of how we treat all people, from the color of your skin to your genetic traits, and how you should be treated no matter who you are. I need to stress that one more time. It didn't matter anymore when they saw that we were completely accepting of how they were actually separating people and sterilizing people in the millions, not thousands, in millions. They figured they can get away with anything. It no longer became a race thing. It started as a race thing, and then they started realizing that as long as they did things that didn't offend, that whole thing of if I won't say anything because it's not coming at my door or they're not talking about me. That whole thing started with the complete acceptance of the human zoos in the first place. And later, how many actual colleges, universities, I'm going to cover some of the Tavistock Institute, all of those things eventually fit into this one place. How we treat each other today is a manufactured position. It's not because we're just like this. I don't get angry when people show a misunderstanding of or separate themselves from someone else. This is a process that never really stopped. It's never really stopped. Okay, so anyway, the fear, the division, the fight that we're all facing comes from the past and is being used against us because we have no idea these crazy people came up with such nonsense. Well, now you could say, I think I have a better idea where you might have come up with that. We have systematically done everything that they thought that we would. Not only we make it a case for us being dumbed down, and not by the genetically modified food, which by the way was originally introduced in the late 1800s, or poverty, or societal condition, nor maybe you're just a jerk. I don't know. But we have now sat quietly as the things that make us human are now being traced back as on our family trees. As if you think this is false, think again. Now, eugenicists were not so naive as to claim that societal and economic conditions had no effect in the upbringing about criminal behavior. Now, in 1928, Charles Davenport of the Eugenics Record Office at Cold Springs Harbor wrote an article titled Crime, Heredity, and Environment, in which he recognized that laws could change time to time and vary from country to country. What would be technically a criminal act at one place and point in time would not necessarily be a criminal act at another place or a point in time. So Davenport solved this problem by arguing that criminality was the result of a more general genetic defect known as, sit for this, feeble inhibition. That is, that criminals were people who could not control or inhibit their impulses. They could not plan for the future and consequently did whatever came to mind at the moment, regardless of the consequences. Now, please, I hope you guys really look this up, because I couldn't possibly, not even with 20 hours could I cover all of this. But anyway, so the biological arguments for criminality continued from Laughlin and Davenport's day to the present. Now, in 1939, rather late in the eugenics era, Harvard anthropologist Ernest Houghton compiled a massive statistical publication called The American Criminal, an Anthropological Study, in which he argued even more strongly that Laughlin criminality was a biological trait found more in certain ethnic and national groups than others. In 1965, a group of researchers in Scotland found that a significant percentage of men in prison had an extra Y chromosome. They were XYY, while most males are XY, suggesting a chromosomal cause for criminality. In 1985, I went from 39 to 65 to 85. Harvard psychologist Richard Herrnstein and political scientist James Q. Wilson published a highly publicized book, Crime and Human Nature, that surveyed vast amounts of literature from the 20th century, arguing for a biological basis for criminality. Now, in the 1990s, with large grants from the National Institute of Mental Health, prominent researchers, largely in departments of psychiatry and psychology around the United States, have revived the argument that there is a genetic basis for criminality, pointing especially the possibility that low levels of a neurotransmitter, dopamine, may also be the root of uncontrolled or feebly inhibited behavior. At the moment, however, the status of such studies remains unconfirmed by independent research teams. Now, to make sure that this is stated in the way that it needs to be, and if you think you have seen worse atrocities, that maybe this was a long time ago or it's no longer relevant as we know it, or you know some really bad guys out there like Hitler, then you should sit for this. Now, according to a few papers written in major U.S. universities and articles that can only be available online if you have the cash, I do find it funny that some of the greatest works and the most detailed information now on articles pertaining to how we're treated, especially in how you call it in the psychological and psychiatry department, is now you have to pay for it. It's pretty much like $30 per paper, not to access anything. It's $30 per paper. So anyway, so you could find it. It's just going to be really, really hard. But luckily, I'm hard-headed in persistence, and I found this gem. Quote, and this is going to be a tough one. Hitler and his henchmen victimized an entire continent and exterminated millions in his quest for a so-called master race. But the concept of a white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, mastic Nordic race didn't originate with Hitler. The idea was created in the United States. Look this up if you don't believe me. Look up the Nuremberg trials at the most atrocious things where they had people up there. They actually stated where they had gotten a ton of their information from. And a lot of the books written by the authorities here in the United States of that time were found after the war. So anyway, role in the American eugenics movement campaign for ethnic cleansing. Eugenics was the racist pseudoscience determined to wipe away all human beings deemed unfit, preserving only those who conform to a Nordic stereotype. Elements of the philosophy were enshrined as national policy by forced sterilization and segregation laws, as well as marriage restrictions enacted in 27 states. In 1909, California became the third state to adopt such laws. Ultimately, eugenics practitioners coercively sterilized some 60,000 Americans, barred the marriage of thousands, forcibly segregated thousands in colonies, and persecuted untold numbers in ways we're just learning. Before World War II, nearly half of coercive sterilizations were done in California, and even after the war, the state accounted for a third of all such surgeries. By the way, there is an article that came out, I want to say early this year, maybe late last year, where I think 1,200 sterilizations in California again happened in prisons. If I'm going to try to find that article during the second break, but that just came out again. So this has never really stopped. This hasn't really stopped. So California was considered an epicenter of the American eugenics movement. During the 20th century's first decades, California's eugenicists included potent but little-known race scientists, such as Army venereal disease specialist Dr. Poponi, citrus magnate and Polytechnic benefactor Paul Gosney, Sacramento banker Charles Goeth, and as well as members of the California State Board of Charities and Corrections and the University of California Board of Regents. So eugenics would have been so much a bizarre parlor talk that it had not been for extensive financing by corporate philanthropies. Specifically, the Carnegie Institute, the Rockefeller Foundation, and the Harriman Railroad Fortune. Look up all of those, and you're not going to believe what you're going to find. They were all in league with some of America's most respected scientists, hailing from such prestigious universities as Stanford, Yale, Harvard, and Princeton. These academics espoused race theory and race science, and then faked and twisted data to serve eugenicists' racist aims. Stanford president at the time, his name was David Jordan, originated the notion of race and blood. This is good. In 1902, Racial Epistle, Blood of a Nation, in which the university scholar declared that human qualities and conditions such as talent and poverty were passed through the blood. So in 1904, the Carnegie Institute established a laboratory complex at Cold Spring Harbors on Long Island that stockpiled millions of index cards on ordinary Americans, as researchers carefully plotted the removal of families, bloodlines, and whole peoples. For Cold Spring Harbor, eugenics advocates agitated in the legislators of America, as well as the nation's social service agencies and association. The Harriman Railroad Fortune paid local charities such as the New York Bureau of Industries and Immigration to seek out Jewish, Italian, and other immigrants in New York and other crowded cities and subject them to deportation, trumped up confinement, or forced sterilization. So while we have this whole notion, and eventually we would have a 1924 Immigration Act, right? You can find this online, and then it'll tell you all of the different countries and all of the different nationalities around the world, how many were actually allowed to be here. And like they had like a cutoff time. So Madison Grant had a huge part to do with the cutoff time of how many people were going to start accepting. What people didn't know is that they were able to bring people in, but they were actually testing or sterilizing them because they all had to get some kind of uh, a physical, and they had to go through all this stuff before they actually got shipped to a state or whatever. So while all of that stuff is being done, and everybody's just under the assumption that this is the place to go. Mind you, we're facing those kinds of realities today where people are looking to flee from oppressive places. When you start realizing that our automatic bias on this comes from something that was written, shared, and pretty much spread as much as it could be by people that we looked up to. People paid good money to go to Harvard and to Stanford and to go to all of these places, and they walked out of there thinking that they knew exactly what was happening in the real world. We're taught to respect scientists. We're taught to that they went to school, we didn't go to school, everything that they say makes absolute sense, and we should follow that because they took their time. They busted their butts and paid thousands of dollars to get the information that we all can't get. So we did live in a time, and I do hear lots of people saying things need to go back to the way they were. We need to watch when we say things like that. Things aren't any worse. They're not any better. We don't know the difference. It's things like this that you say, oh, shoot, I almost cursed on that one, but, oh man, I can't believe it. This is where this actually came from. When you pinpoint where your possible anger comes from, and see that it's a worldwide epidemic. This was not in just one place. These people shared this, and as I said, I named 3 major places, the Carnegie Institute. Those people still exist. Most of these places still exist, and this is their backgrounds. You'll be able to find online as well just direct information that tells you about your family line, and I probably will be discussing that in the second hour. Organizations, especially in the late 90s and the early 2000s, when the internet wasn't as monitored as it is now, where these things were being told. And people were screaming it, and there were people that were hitting it on the nose, people that were getting it right. And you can't find any of those places anymore. This is why these are the things that need to be discussed. If we could find out where our anger and our frustration comes from, and that it's taught, we're not just bad people. That means the next time you hear somebody say, "Oh, those damn refugees, why they come over here to take my stuff," and they'll say it like they lived it. Like this is the time, like they lived in 1903, and they're sharing the things that they saw in real time. You take that as an emotion because it's something that's taught. And when you see it again, or when you hear it for the first time, you're not understanding why you're feeling the way that you are. They don't want to kill us. There's no need for any of that. The eugenics program has never stopped. We are going through it right now. They're like, oh, the GMOs are going to kill us. The chemtrails are going to kill us. It's not killing us. It's changing us. It's changing how we think. It's changing how we live, how we treat each other all of the time. And even though back then it seemed like it was easier for them, of course, they had a hell of a lot more abilities to just kind of take people in mass. Look up anything about an insane asylum in the early 19th century, and you'll second think how you think about people in general, or anybody that is all of a sudden given a label, such as bipolar or psychotic, or all of those things were being changed, and it's a good thing for them. And it's even better because they know that we don't know. This came from science. This was something that they were taught, and they know that it works. So we got to stop being so angry with each other and start actually looking and saying, wow, these places, the Rockefeller Foundation, still a huge thing. Tavistock Institute, still a huge thing. All of these places that are working and pulling the strings. They're actually pulling the strings. And there's nothing we can do because we don't know. Now you could say, I absolutely know. I know what you did. I know who did it. I know where it was taught. I know the foundations that seem uh, to act like they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then you look into their past a little bit and you find out that they're also funding eugenics programs today. So none of this will be new to you after today. None of it. Okay. They were almost lucky to see where some of this was going, considering it's a worldwide thing. So it was called the Project for the Exposure of Hidden Institutions. Now, that's one of the websites that was up. We have awesome things such as the Wayback Machine that you might be able to find it. I looked for it a lot when I was doing research for this, and you could find. You can't actually go directly to the site, but a lot of people did try to mirror it or take screenshots of a lot of the information. It has all in every country. It has the detailed, and like I said, it's I'm trying to put it in okay, so it would be PEHI, Project for the Exposure of Hidden Institutions. And like I said, it was doing a great job, but of course it's been removed. And then if you're like, oh, why would they do something like that? And it's because they don't want us to know. Are you kidding? This is the kind of stuff that will shut them down. We won't be angry with each other anymore. We won't have a reason to. We won't have a reason to, because we're all going through it. They made it into something that we felt we couldn't control. Now, what happens when we find these things out? Now, who's in control? They can't be. They can't be. We're able to find out who they are and exactly what they're doing. So this is how it still is. It was like this in the 90s. They kind of changed. They still store the information, but now it's almost impossible for us to get it. So we went through the sterilization process and everything else. Now, maybe a lot of people can remember or maybe not, but sterilization wasn't just for Asians or Indians or Native Americans or blacks. This was if you had eye problems. In some counties in the United States, if you were left-handed, that was an issue. And I know that's still an issue today with people with left-handedness. If you had something that a defect, anything that was wrong with you, they automatically assumed, especially if you were a female and you were born this way, then they would automatically say, okay, we need to nip this in the bud. So they were calling in women in droves. And like I said, they had millions of pieces of papers and index cards with everybody's information on it. And what happened? They were calling in women and saying, oh, we need to check, there was something in the water, or it's a yearly check for your child, and they were sterilizing them. They didn't tell them that, of course. I mean, it took 20, 30, 40 years, and there's still people till this day that are finding out that their mothers or their grandmothers were sterilized without their knowledge. And like I said, you can look it up. There was something not too long ago where a doctor got in trouble for not actually telling the women anything. He was sterilizing them. When he got approached and caught, he said that it was for the betterment of the women because they were already in prison. And why subject future kids, you know what I mean, from coming in and having to deal with the same problem, that their children would eventually walk right through the doors the same way that their mothers did. So that's eugenics. That's Madison Grant. That's everything that we're discussing here. That is in 2015 or 2014. That's still happening today. So there's a place called the NHIS. Now, that's the National Health Interview Survey. Now, some people get this at random. So I went to their website and I found out exactly what it is that they do. And I'm going to tell you what that is. So and I got this from their website themselves. This is the NHIS. So if you have already been a survey participant, thank you. If you have been notified that your household has been selected for the National Health Interview Survey and you are thinking about becoming a survey participant, we hope to answer some frequently asked questions that will help you understand why your participation is so important. In order for the results from the NHIS to accurately represent the health of the nation, respondents selected must be from a random sample. If you were selected to participate in the survey, your answers count toward finding out about the health of our nation. So the National Center for Health Statistics, as part of the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, is responsible for the survey. It's a nationwide survey concerned with the health of the U.S. population and factors that affect people's health. Now, of course, some people are like, come on, of course they have to find out what's going on. And, a lot of people can't afford insurance. So, we need things like this so we can talk to, as many people as we possibly can and find out the ailments of people. I'm using the word people only, but it's not just people. The NHIS data are collected through personal household interviews. For over 50 years, interviewers from the U.S. Census Bureau have visited American homes to ask about a broad range of health topics. Survey results have been instrumental in providing data to track health status, healthcare access, and progress toward achieving national health objectives. So, because I only have about 10 minutes. Well, no, I have a little longer, so I'll keep going. Okay, so here's a study that was done in June of 2015, just a couple of months ago. And it's called Racial and Ethnic Disparities in Men's Use of Mental Health Treatments. So according to them going and just being invasive, because I find it invasive if somebody that got trained at the Census Bureau is coming to my house and asking me, how I'm feeling, and I don't know where they're going with that information. They're not a physician. These people are not doctors. They don't go to your house and find out this information to give you medical care or anything like that. But anyway, it says nearly 9% of men had daily feelings of anxiety or depression. Less than one half of them took medication for these feelings or had recently talked to a mental health care professional. Racial and ethnic differences were observed only for men aged 18 to 44. Among men aged 18 to 44, non-Hispanics, Black, and Hispanic men were less likely than non-Hispanic white men to report daily feelings of anxiety or depression. Among men aged 18 to 44 who had daily feelings of anxiety or depression, non-Hispanic Black and Hispanic men were less likely than non-Hispanic white men to have used mental health treatments. The significant racial and ethnic disparity in treatment utilization was associated with lack of health insurance coverage. Now, if I was listening to myself just now, I'd be like, what the hell is she talking about? Okay. Now, I'm going to read the rest of this so you really understand what I'm trying to say. Compared with white Americans, persons of other races in the United States are less likely to have access to and receive needed medical care, or 1 out of 4. Few studies, however, have explored such disparities specifically among men. Mental health and treatment have traditionally received less attention from men than women, perhaps because, get this, men are less likely than women to report mental health problems and to receive services for these problems. This report uses nationally representative data on frequency of mental health systems and related treatment utilization to compare men of color. That is, in parentheses, they have it on the site, that is non-Hispanic, Hispanic Black and Hispanic men with non-Hispanic white men. It also explores whether racial and ethnic disparities differ by age, health insurance coverage status, and income. None of that sounds like they were trying to help any men. It sounds more or less they were trying to find out what color your skin was, and then because I'm still trying to figure out what non-Hispanic Black man is compared to Hispanic men. The color of your skin and where you come from, as most people, especially mixed groups, I'm half Hispanic and half Black. And I'm the lightest one in my whole family for some odd reason. So I don't really get approached with people knowing my nationality right off. But you can't automatically say that I'm white. I mean, you could if you looked at the color of my skin and then find out that's not my nationality. So who is it exactly that fits in the non-Hispanic Hispanic Black? This isn't trying to help men. It's telling you that not only do men are just afraid to go ask for help, but it tells you how many men, the kind of feelings that they have, but it doesn't give anything like how we're going to help. You could read the entire article. It would take me 3 hours to read the whole thing. I can guarantee you that it's a hell of a lot more numbers. The dissection of diversity. Of course, it makes complete sense that people that live in poorer areas are probably not getting help. That I could figure out, and I don't need the work for the NHIS to figure that out. A 10-year-old could figure that out. If you don't have the money, then you can't get the help. So why is it that they need to go to these places and physically find out this information? When I looked up trying to find out what would happen if you turned it down, because of course I did that. Like I said, if you want to go there, check for yourself. It is the NHIS, and this is one of their surveys. If you don't help, then it says that you're not being patriotic, that you're not helping your nation. It sounds like a somebody waving their finger at you, like, oh, I can't believe you didn't do that. It's invasive. It's in your face. We don't know what they're, well, I mean, we know what they're doing with the numbers, but why would I want to be a part of that? Why would that be something that is going to help anybody in the long run? If they find out that you don't have enough money to get yourself some help, obviously they know your address, they know where you live, they know the color of your skin, and apparently they know you need help, a lot of help. Apparently, by these numbers, a lot of men are going through stuff right now. And I'm not a man, but I'm severely offended with thinking that men are just not going to ask for any help. I mean, seriously. Then if they know they need help, then open up a clinic. Give some guys some free therapy. Maybe push a couple of TV shows where a man and a woman or a husband and a wife have a conversation. Work it out. Talk about it. Work things through. Don't automatically say that men are less likely to ask for help. To me, that's offensive all in itself. But then try to make it seem like if I ask the questions, what do you do with this information? Is it really helping? Can you show me where it helped? Do you have a paper on that? Nobody's asking for it, and nobody seems to care. And we just keep thinking that this is our duty. Now that you know exactly what these programs do, or what they did, and you can find out that they're doing it now, you'll start seeing it in a different way. If people in power, and you can name it whatever you want, the New World Order, the Masons, the Illuminati, whatever name you want to give it, I call it the powers that be, because the people that are really behind the scenes aren't in front of the cameras, and they're not writing books, and they're not on the radio, they're not talking about real things. They can't. The real people that are behind the shadows, we've never seen them before. But don't believe that they're not there. They don't want to kill us. We would be useless. We look at how many people don't want to read a book. How many people don't want to actually communicate with each other or share this kind of information. It's working. Everything that they practice on, everything, all of those poor people in the millions on this planet, those are the real wars. Okay, is what they did to people in insane asylums, people that were confused, because there was doctors in talking in stadiums, and there were people writing books and giving them to colleges and having these speeches and all this stuff. They were doing all of that stuff, and people were like, we can help. You just have to send them to us. No, you wouldn't be able to help your mother if she's talking to a wall by giving her a hug, or maybe ask her what the hell is wrong. Send her to us. Send her here. We'll figure it out. We'll help out in any way that we can. And all they did was experiment on the people that we didn't understand. And today we're doing the exact same thing with teenagers and children, not understanding what they're doing. Oh, my kid doesn't want to sit still because he's a kid. But if there's a place, there's a place that is willing to tell you that they can help, that you can't help as a parent, or you can't help as an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent, that they have a remedy, and it doesn't seem right, then it's probably not right. They need us to be complacent. They need us to conform. They need us to be these robots. They're scaring us with AI so then they can tell us, oh, that's coming. It's us. It's us. They're turning us into the robots that they need. They're making us into the people that they need so that they can remain in power. If they kill off half of the population, who the hell's going to be here to do everything? They're not going to come out of their homes and go and do it. Absolutely not. There isn't going to be this whole thing. The movies are lying. The TV is lying. All of that is lying. All of the information on what they've been planning to do is there. It's out there. Readily available for you to look for. When you start making those connections, things start making sense. You'll be less angry. Everything will start working out. You'll understand the plight of everyone else. We need to start making that connection once again with each other, by having these kinds of conversations. The past, everybody tells you, don't look behind you, look ahead. That's a huge mistake, and one of the biggest problems that we have is to believe that if you look behind you, you're going backwards. That's BS. You look behind you, you won't make the same mistake forward. These are the kinds of things we're walking back into. We're calling it genetics. Oh, I want a boy or I want a girl. Yeah, sure, go ahead. Go into my unborn baby and, switch stuff around. Sure, no problem. Just give me what I want. Those are the real problems. Those are the real problems. They know exactly how to distract us. They got us at each other's throats, constantly at each other's throats, trying to hurt each other as much as we possibly can. And for what? They win. It's not us. We're not winning anything. There is no prize. There is nothing else. Actually, I'll get into the prizes that were actually available because there was actually a prize back in the, I think 30s or 40s. There was actual prizes that you would win medals at state fairs, and psychiatrists and physicians would go and give your family a gold medal or a silver medal based on, you just being healthier than most. We've been categorized before the internet. They don't need your information. Nobody's sitting there stalking you. They have everything that they need, and we give it to them for free. We walk right into their places, right into the traps, constantly. And by being angry with everybody else, we're not trying to help anybody else. There are people out there that need our help. There are things out there that we could be doing. Small things. We don't have to do anything major. I'm not telling you to burn down the city. But just being aware of the people that are actually working behind the shadows. These places are getting notarization all over the world for their so-called helping the less fortunate. They're not helping anybody. They're using us as test dummies and guinea pigs, and it's working. It's absolutely working. There's nothing to truly do about it if we don't see it. You have to be able to see it. Join me for the second hour because I kind of have a surprise, and I hope that you guys in the chat room will be
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Have anything you'd like to add or comment? And there for the second hour as well.
Who owns you? If you're not in control, then someone else is.
No, I don't have links yet. Okay, and during the
request for Voices on the Wind, Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern in Studio A.
I know it's a lot to take in, and I'm sorry for that, but this is stuff that needs to be
suppressed science, universal mysteries, little known incredible facts, alternative energies, and even more than you can imagine. Won't you join us on Revolution Radio Saturdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern for Voices on the Wind?
And just say, hey, I have something too, and this will really help.
Paralyzed in the balance. People under fire. Children at the cannons.
You're not gonna get.
Because if your head's in the sand, your tail is a target.
Right place. Inside it has plenty.
Some more speed records in this day and age. You need coverage.
Coverage? Oh, you mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
Many of you know that quote by Jack Nicholson and A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. Well, you can, and Event Horizons will give you those truths. So when you're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore from that memorable senior network, you'll know just what to do. We will draw you in and become your news addiction at Event Horizons. Join us Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time at freedomslips.com. At Revolution Radio. Our world team members are Dennis Petro, John Elias, David Dunger, Halakas MD, Melanie Bridgeton, Jim Mars, Paula Harris, John Trallo, Maria Payan, Christopher Husser, DODDS, Jonathan Orchard, and me, your anchor, Dr. Robin Falco.
If you decide not to volunteer, it will not be held against you in any way.
Sounds dangerous.
It is. Very dangerous.
Count me in.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
Most guys freeze. That's your cerebral cortex looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you're screwed.
Your body's filling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. Your heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling it to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener supported radio. Reporting to danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio!
Listen in on Mondays, 8 Eastern Time on Revolution Radio for Journeys with JP. With a variety of guests, each giving their perspective on their journey into the now. Join me and my guests Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern on Revolution Radio Studio B.
Enjoy your
extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another?
Extra big-ass fries.
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
Come
trouble.
on. My kids are starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, and above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning, how to do everything website, all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
I have to apologize. I did not hear the music. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the commercial because I was getting a weird humming sound from my mic, so I kind of muted it, and so that was my mistake. But first, again, thanks for listening and joining me in the second hour. I'm your host, Trinity, and this is Esoteric Truth on Revolution Radio. So before we get into the next part, I want to remind the listeners that Freedom Slips has more to offer than just shows, but fantastic deals, like something I'm going to order, by the way, a fantastic EMP-proof sealed bullet thumb drive with lifetime syncing service. It's an 8 gig thumb drive, and it has over 3 gigs of survival and off-the-grid documents. So it also has, by the way, with the 3 gigs already, come with more than you could possibly need on information if things just happen to go with the all blank hits the fan. You'll actually have this, but you get the complete offline home canning and food preservation website. And an offline, of course, means you can use it without connecting to the internet, because if you actually need this, you're probably not going to have internet connection. So all of that, the 3 gigs of survival, off-the-grid documents, home canning, food preservation, lifetime syncing service, all of that for $50. So go to freedomslips.com and go to the Support Us tab and order yours today. So I wanted to try something new. I love that Revolution Radio has a huge amount of people that are constantly in the chat room. I absolutely adore that. And I've always loved to participate with the chatters. I don't always get an opportunity to, but I'm going to try to do that today. If nobody participates, it's fine. I'm still going to keep doing it. But I wanted to give this a try and see if we can involve the chat room more by showing or having a weekly segment. So I'd like to start today a weekly segment called Conspiracy Mysteries. So the answer will be given at the end of the show, and the winner will also be named. And if this goes well, then the first person to answer correctly gets a shout out and can private message me a trivia question for next week's show. So I'm going to ask a conspiracy question. I have Tony, or why not, in the chat room right now. He's awesome. So he'll keep an eye out on whoever comes up with it. At the end of the show, I'll give the answer and the name of the first person who answered it correctly. Okay, and then that person will actually get to pick, as hard or as easy as you want, a fantastic trivia question for all of the chat room for next week. So here's the question. What was the nickname that the media gave to a woman who was photographed and filmed during the Kennedy assassination, that according to the evidence had the best and closest video camera at the time of what could have really happened to Kennedy, who of course was never actually identified, came forward, or was found? The nickname of the lady. Now, the media gave her this nickname, but she's in most of the photographs, and people have been looking for her ever since then. So I'm going to get back on with the second half, and hopefully somebody in the chat room will write down the answer. No cheating. No cheating. All right. So let me go on with what I was saying. Sorry, I know you guys probably missed some of the end of it, but I'm going to go to where I think I was probably at. So it says, I already told you what it said in the actual survey that I said, of course, you could find. I'm sorry I didn't have time to write down the sites, but you can always go to the archive and listen to the show for later. So now tell me, if this is not just another scientific assessment that is eerily similar to the ones done in the 1900s, what does it matter that some men feel depressed and others don't? What does it mean that their so-called race makes them different than the other? What does it matter their income? And are they not people? All of them. They're all people. The only difference between myself and the men that were there is that they're men and I'm a woman. That's it. It shouldn't matter anything else. But the fact that they're still putting us in much smaller categories and like I said, back then, it was much more difficult to find out the sinister nature of these kinds of things. As I said, there was trying to find it here. Okay, well, I'll be able to go through it. So anyway, um, how do men feel that are listening that are you actually represented in any way? Do you feel that maybe this is right about all men, or are you more interested in which bracket you're in? Did you wait to really listen until I said something that made you feel and only meant you? Well, it's okay if it did, but that is the actual purpose of the survey and the purpose of the programming that we're all involved in. We're allowing our children to become sick and unstable. We're medicating infants with tons of psychotropic drugs, and we don't conversate with the young and the elderly. So when they need help, we have no clue what's going on. We are people, we need love and caring like everybody else. And we need understanding about each other. We need to have these conversations instead of the same old agenda from 100 years ago. We're selected like cattle, and they're telling you that it's not the same. It's absolutely the same. You can't change a couple of letters and turn it into something else. Right now, we are readily walking into every single thing that I actually mentioned. Now, like I said, back then, nobody really knew. They didn't know that we had an agenda. There was no real powers that be conversation in 1903. There wasn't an Illuminati conversation. Everybody was in, and all of these weird places that right now that we shun. Some of us do, some of us don't, but some of us consider a lot of these places that were actually in control and funding these things as places that were good for us. We didn't know any better back then. What is our excuse now? What could possibly be our excuse to voluntarily walk into these things? Not only are we just doing this, and I know, I hate saying it because I know that some people really just don't know. I get that. I get that. But that's why it needs to be discussed. So you can't say tomorrow, I didn't know that, or I didn't hear that, or, anything like that. So it turns into something that's just terrifying within itself, everything. So I'm not trying to do, this isn't fear mongering, by the way. This isn't doom porn. I don't have time for that. All of that stuff is out there on the internet. Most of this stuff is just on the government websites itself. They're just not spreading it. This isn't making the 10 o'clock news or the 5 o'clock news. Nobody's going to tell you that this is the stuff that happens. They're not going to tell you that they're a huge problem, and that it's never going to stop. But we have to stop it. Um, on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, um, they have all of these quizzes, right? So they ask you things like, do you think you're a cat? What kind of cat are you? Do you think you're Darth Vader? Or which character from Star Wars are you? Which character on The Simpsons are you? So people literally, and I see it all the time, it's heartbreaking for me, but they do this, and it's tied into your name, your location, your photos, your likes, everything that you do. So if I write down that I think I'm Bart Simpson, right? I'm literally, now I think it's all for, for giggles, right? It's all for fun. I'm thinking it's fun. I get to share it with my friends, and they get to compare theirs with mine. And it's not so much your location that they're interested in. They're mostly interested in, are you male or female? And most of these have that in the quiz. And if they don't, they can tell by going into your Facebook. Those things are categorized. They want to know who identifies with Darth Vader. Who identifies? Are you a calico cat, or are you a Siamese cat? Well, who the hell thinks they're cats? And even if it's for fun, and I get it, even if it's for fun, that's fantastic. But that's not what they're using it for. They're using it against us. We're literally giving ourselves psychiatric evaluations. Because if I walked into Bellevue right now and I said, I think I'm Darth Vader with a little bit of calico, they're going to lock me up. There's no talking about this. I can't go, ha ha, I was just kidding, and run away, because they're going to chase me, they're going to knock me down, and they're going to drag me back in there and give me a nice jacket with buckles in the back. And there's nothing I can do about it. But the fact that we self-analyze ourselves, we have places like WebMD to make you terrified all day long. They want to know who's susceptible to this, who's going to be a real problem later on. They want to be able to convince you 20, 30 years from now we're sitting here thinking about Mars and nobody cares about Mars. They don't care about Mars. Uh, they care about all of us really, really, really trying to figure out, or for us to look at the sky and not look here. I don't want to look at my neighbor. I want to look at Mars. I don't want to look at my neighbor. I want to talk about the moon landing. I'm not saying that those aren't subjects that should be discussed. I'm saying that we should discuss a little bit of other things too. They want to know who's believing the most outrageous things, um, because they know that you might be easier um, to put into their little hypnotic spell that's television and the mainstream media. It's perfect for them. It's perfect. I don't want to say that this is just from 100 years ago. Thousands of years ago, the lobotomy is not anything new. And I don't mean because it was done in the late 1800s. That horrific thing where they put that giant needle into your eyeball and then tap it in the top of your brain. Yeah, that was found in ancient Egypt. They did that to people all the time. You didn't know how to behave. That's what they did to you. Period. They want to control people. They don't care about your bank account. They don't care the color of your skin or where you're from. They want to know, are you a good worker bee or are you a bad worker bee? That's it. They just want you to be complacent in everything that they do. They want to make sure that you will follow the rules. They want to make sure that you walk on the line. They do not want to murder you. I was one of those people, especially I was really into that whole 2012 thing and the 2001 thing. Oh my God, I spent so much time. Being concerned with so many of the stories I heard about tanks that were going to come out of my street and they were going to try to shoot everybody. There was even a guy, and I can't remember his name. There was a guy who used to have all of these videos. I haven't seen him in forever, but he had these videos that said that the post office, which we know it's a government, I'll go into the post office another day. They're also a nice little hidden group. But what he was telling people on video that was already terrified about these mass murderings that were going to happen on your street was that the tanks would be able to identify if you were a problem because there was like an invisible sticker that only worked with black light, and it would be on your it would be on your mailbox. And every time the post office is checking up on you or they know what kind of mail you got or any, and now mind you, this was in the 90s. This was way before anybody had the damn internet, but he had everybody convinced. I was terrified. I was like, I know I'm going to have that button, that circle. I know they're going to find that circle at my house because I'm a pain. I know that, I'm rubbing people the wrong way with the topics that I'm bringing up. So I stayed and I was complacent. I didn't research anymore. I was terrified that at any moment, and I wasn't the only one. I knew a lot of other people that were like that. We wouldn't talk about certain things on the phone. They had me. They had me exactly where they wanted me. They had me exactly where they wanted me. Crapping my pants, worried that I was going to have to come up with some cyanide pill from James Bond, and I was going to have to give it to my whole family, and we were going to be like the Heaven's Gate. And I thought that that was how that was the kind of sinister, that they didn't want people that spoke up, and they still don't, but they're not doing that. um, they're just working us in an entirely different way. They're working us in a way that is causing us to self-police, right? So we watch what we say, we watch who we say it to, or at least people think that you should. So when somebody says, like the wonderful people here on Revolution Radio, when they say, you know what, sure, we actually enjoy your topics, run with it. You can't tell me to run with it. I've already been scared. I've already spent that time terrified and talking about things that weren't actually helping. I knew that I was doing that, but I was doing it out of self-protection. We all have fight or flight. So I was like, okay, if I have to live in a world where I don't know, because we can't identify each other in that way. I don't know if I'm standing with you at a grocery store and a guy pulls out a gun. I don't know if you're going to haul ass and leave me there. But I'm not going to wait until something happens to find out. So I was like, well, if I know that our natural instinct is to survive, the only way we'll actually put survival first is if we know what we need to survive from. See, I didn't know about the human zoos. I lived in New York most of my life, and I've been to the Bronx Zoo many, many times and never known that there were humans. in some of those cages, exactly where I was standing or where I used to go and, cut out of school and go have fun. No clue. And now that I'm older and now that I know these things, I don't ever want to know what else happened. I want to keep looking. I want to make it my business to tell other people that if we would just stop fighting for like 10 minutes and talk to one another, things will be different. That it doesn't matter where you come from, and it doesn't matter the color of your skin. It matters how much you know. Or at least, even if you don't want to do the research, screw it. You don't want to read the book, don't read the book. Fine. Keep an open mind. I am not the only person. There are tons of people just on this station alone. You go to one website, you find tons of people giving you information. We turn into the real life audiobooks. That's us. You get to just, all you have to do is listen. And you can take it or leave it. There's no way that I'm going to sit here and try to convince you that I'm right about everything. But I will tell you to go look at it. And if you want to debate me, bring it. I'm cool. No problem. I gave you guys my website. You guys can go over there and just tell me what you want to tell me. That's fine. If I said something wrong or I gave a wrong date on something, then correct me, because that's the only way we're going to get things right, is if we talk about it, not screaming or yelling. I don't have to talk down to you like you're all my children. I talk to you like you guys are the people that are helping this entire community to turn into exactly what it's supposed to be. And I'm very thankful that I have people that actually listen to what I'm saying, because it makes me feel useful. It makes me feel like I'm helping and I'm doing some of what I'm supposed to do. I was already scared. I was already worried about the Census Bureau when they were coming to my house. Now, here's a little trick about the Census Bureau, by the way, because I know they're going to be doing their little runaround soon. If you tell the Census Bureau that they already came to your house, even if they didn't, and they leave, that means they automatically came to your house. They cannot come to your house twice. I've already done this, and that's the reason why I'm saying it. If they come back the second time, you can tell them that they already showed up to your house. It'll be on record that someone came, but they left. So I was able to get out of going to the census. But if they're sending you all this other stuff and they're still doing the Nielsen program thing where they send you a special box to your house, I actually know somebody, and I know she's going to listen to this show. And she's going to, yeah, I'm talking to you. She tells me that she got picked for the Nielsen group. They sent a box for her to put in her house for her whole family to watch. And she does like a little survey or whatever. And I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, oh my God, like you're literally, why don't you just let them take take you all? Why don't you just fill out a whole big questionnaire about everything, your deepest, darkest secrets? I was like, you don't know what these things are. They don't care about what you're watching. They care about what you're doing. They can't change us. They can't give us worse medication. They can't put stuff in the skies. And I'm not saying that they're not doing that. I say that they are. It's just not killing us. It's changing us. The genetic problems that were happening back then and the ones that are happening now are different, and they change every couple of years. There's always something that's just horrific that's going on in mass. Okay? I don't mind bringing up my personal stuff. I have 2 boys that were preemies, and they so-called had autism. Well, the one that was the oldest, they were born 2 minutes apart. 20, and they're 23. Oh, they're gonna hate me for that. 22 or 23. Anyway, I didn't know what any of that was. I didn't know what autism was. Nobody really knew. They were just treating it as just a basic something went wrong at the hospital, or I must have done something when they were really small. So I never got them. They didn't talk even at 4 or 5 years old. I never took them to a doctor or anything like that, because I thought, the same way that most parents that I met later on that found out that they were so-called on spectrums and they were on all this stuff, that that a lot of people didn't know what this was just yet. And they weren't really offering drugs at the time, but they had no place to put these kids. They had no place to put them, and I kind of thought, like other parents, that they were just being kids. Or I always learned that some kids grow a little faster or do more things faster than another kid. I didn't automatically think that there was something absolutely positively wrong with them, and I started noticing that when I did get them diagnosed, that they were treated very differently. And I did not like that. And I've homeschooled the whole time. Both of my children no longer are on anything, and I never gave them drugs or anything like that. They're not on any kind of program or anything like that. After homeschooling, they got out of the IQ spectrum for disability and they were on the normal range. So they didn't qualify for all of that. But I had pulled them out of school because I noticed that they weren't really being schooled or being taught anything. They were being observed. They just wanted to know what the kids are going to do. And how they're going to do it. How do these kids interact with other kids? They were just putting them in an entirely different category. And now that I know about the human zoos, now that I know about Madison Grant, now that I know about all of these people that are out there, and I get the sense that everything they're doing is working, and it's still working. I don't want it to work anymore. I don't want it to work. I want to be able to say, and not stand by myself, but say, no, this is completely unacceptable. You could take all of your little statistics and you could make up 25 different new races. I don't care. As far as something as an individual or a family trying to have an understanding on how to raise their children in a world that only puts them in a category, we have a much bigger fight on our hands. If we don't realize what genetics is and we don't realize how they're changing children and how they're changing the elderly and how they're changing adults. And they're putting us in all of these different scenarios, and it's to watch us. We're like the real life Sims. They get to watch what we do. They see what we do. They don't care about your personal name. They don't care about, how many groceries you're buying or anything like that. The real scare tactics comes from them not giving a crap about things that we think are important. That's just a diversion. So we do everything else regular. They're like, they don't care about these things. No, they probably don't. But don't think that whatever you think you're hiding from or whatever you think you're not speaking out upon, that it's not relevant. It absolutely is. We need to actually go ahead and say, I'm not going to let it happen anymore. I know what you guys did, and I know what you're doing now. I didn't find out until I started researching this that GMOs have been around since the 1800s, and that there was a huge problem with the way it was affecting people back then. What do you think, that splicing vegetables is new? No, no, no. And it's not, Monsanto is not the first people to give that a shot. There's a lot of people that have already played that game. A lot of people that they went and they realized that people will get angry and people will stand up. And people did. They absolutely did. They just learned how to hide things better. We're not even looking anymore. We're not even taking the chance to look. We're just saying, well, we're going to take everything the way that it is. We're not going to worry about it until it affects us in a more personal way. And then we walk. And then we walk. And then we're angry. Then we're angry at the ultimate result, because now we know what the results are. If you go to the CDC, and I'm not going to say the acronym for it, right? But it's like the National Health something. It's kind of like the NHIS, but it tells you about the new diagnoses. So now you could be diagnosed as overeating, which is not mind you, obesity is a huge thing, but it's not because you're shoving so many damn hamburgers in your mouth. It's because the hamburgers is not meat. You're not eating meat. What do you think your body is going to do? Your body's not going to process it. What does that cause? Fat. But instead, we're mad at the people as opposed to mad at the method. Now, right now, everything that I'm saying on here, believe me, if there really is some kind of a list, I've been on it for a long time and I'm really done with trying to sugarcoat things. So I don't care. But if you're really interested in any of that, if you took any Facebook quizzes, you're already part of the program. That's it. You can't even get out of it. Facebook is forever. That stuff never goes away. Never goes away. And we just keep saying, we're destroying the planet because we're eating this or we're using plastic. I'm sorry, did somebody come up with another way for us not to have plastic? Absolutely not. The only way that we could actually turn everything around is if we tell everybody they can't do that anymore. That's it. I can't build my own biodegradable whatever, plates and cups and spoons and a house. I can't do any of that stuff. If I want to eat, if I want to live, if I want to wear clothes, if I want to go to work, then I actually need to be part of the problem. So they tell you that it's you. Be mad at your neighbor. So the 5 people randomly in the chat room right now, I'm supposed to be mad at you and you're supposed to be mad at me because I used PVC in the pipes in my house, and you probably have the same thing. So you and I should be completely angry with each other, not the makers of the PVC or the people that are installing the PVC in your home. We should be angry with each other. And that's a huge issue. They know how we work. The only thing that I'm offering on this show is that we wake up to the fact that we need to teach them it's not working anymore. That this game is not going to be played anymore. That we're finding out more and more stuff, and we're actually able to pinpoint. When your brain starts saying, or your brain starts connecting, the next time you get angry at somebody who's not your color, or you get angry at somebody who doesn't have as much money as you, or you're the owner of a company and somebody comes in that's a part of maintenance crew, you'll be like, I'm not, somebody told me I was supposed to hate you. And now I know that they're not going to rule me. You're a really nice person. I'm so glad I had an opportunity to talk to you today. It's simple. It's really simple. But as long as we don't know what the hell is going on, and they give us somebody, they put people in front of us all day long. They put presidential candidates, they put sports, they put cats. I love cat videos. Listen, I'll be the first one to tell you, I'll watch the crap out of some cat videos. Love them. They're hilarious. Okay? But seriously, there's other stuff. There's other stuff. A lot of it's scary. A lot of it is scary. And it's supposed to be scary. The same way that you look into subjects, you look into the people that are sharing those subjects. Every single whistleblower has a past. Okay? But if you get any kind of information from them that's pertinent, that helps you in your path, there's a whole group, thousands of groups, that get mad at people like Alex Jones and David Icke. So I know I'm already pissing off a hell of a lot of people. I'm okay with that. When I first started getting into research, they said stuff that makes sense. And you know what that made me do? That made me research more. Of course, later on I found out that they weren't the people that I thought they were. But if I wouldn't have gave them a shot in the beginning, I wouldn't have researched at all. So if somebody tells you, oh, don't listen to this or don't listen to that or blah, 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 you do what makes you happy. You research what makes you happy. You make the connection and the dots that make you happy. Because I can't live your life and you can't live mine. But we can sure as hell share information. You could take it or leave it. I'm fine with that. I don't have to take any time out of my life to convince anybody to do anything. But I can, if you're willing to let me, give you some information that you can look up on your own. So I'll leave the information right there and I slowly back away, and then you do with it what you will. You can either throw it in the garbage and ignore it, or say, you know what? I think she's completely full of crap. I'm going to go look into this myself. Those are the people that I love. Those are the people that want to argue with me. And I don't mean argue in a bad way. I'm talking about just debate me and say, that doesn't make sense. I never heard of that before. What if she got some of that information wrong? I have to clear that up for myself. Those are the people that make the changes. Those are the people that are willing to say, I still want to learn, even if I don't like it. We're not always going to say things that other people like, and sometimes we're cool with having the hive mind, and we all want to be social, and we want people to like us, and we want to like people. We're naturally just tribal people. That's it. So the fact that we all stay locked up in our homes, terrified of our neighbors, terrified of the guy that's packing your groceries because he's packing groceries and you could afford $1,000 worth of groceries, that means what they did is working. That's all. They're not trying to wipe him out or you out, because in the eyes of those that are actually controlling this and are in power right now, we're all the same. You are no better than anyone else. Not if you hate guns or love guns, love vaccinations, hate vaccinations, black or white. We're all the same. To them, we're all stupid because we fight with each other instead of fighting them. It's simple. It's actual math. If there's 360 something million people here, and then we only have enough people that are actually in control that could fit into a small building, and then everybody else is screwed, then, you know what I mean? Come on. How does that make sense? How is it that people are like, wait, okay, so if there's one guy, he lives here, and there's 1,000 people that live outside, and that one guy controls things, then why don't we just do what we have to do? And that's my point. We could literally, if 10 people told 10 people that told 10 people, we could change the world in a week. And people are like, oh no, that's bull. It's really not. Tell a company we don't want your crap anymore. Okay, right now we just changed the protein formula for baby infant formula. Do you also know that this country, the United States, I think this one you can try and fix up for me because I might be wrong, but I think we're the only one. It's either us and one other country that allows infant formula to be given to newborns. Other places it has to be given by prescription only, or if you have like the mom can't, or if something's wrong and you can't breastfeed your child. And we sit here, we give people crap for breastfeeding their kids in a restaurant. I mean, no, you shouldn't have your boob out everywhere, but are you telling me that I can't feed my kid? That if I give my kid something that's not natural or is not going to help with their growth, that we should not, we should ignore that? Absolutely not. Look at the things that we argue about and then the things we should be arguing about. And you'd be like, oh man, they didn't even really think of it that way. Every other country refuses. It's illegal to actually give it to people in hospitals. Here, I had my children, they automatically had a big old box, especially for the twins, a big old box of Similac, which is just some stuff made in some place. And because I didn't want to, I was like, oh, this is way easier, especially with twins. I was like, yeah, just get me something plastic and I'll put it in there and I'll heat it up in a microwave and I'll give it to my newborns. Absolutely. Sure thing. Sure thing. So what happens with the future generations that didn't know? I know I didn't know. Nobody told me anything. And yes, I probably could have looked it up, but I was 18. So I'm going to use that not as an excuse, but use that as why I do what I do today. And be able to show the process on how growth can be helpful to everybody. How sharing your voice, your opinion, and everything else is important to the growth of everyone. So even if you decide that you want to have a conversation with somebody about something that you think is important, you don't know who's on the other end. I don't know who's listening to me. I don't know about any of you guys in the chat room. I know a couple of you, but not personally. So the fact that you're taking the time to hear these things and to say, you know what, I would love to be a part of the difference. I did the chat room trivia thing. And of course, somebody got it immediately. You know what? I was trying to think that might have been hard. That's crazy. Okay, but anyway, I'll announce the winner at my last couple of minutes. But like I said, it's something, even something like that. Let's see what we know. Let's share. Let's keep doing this. Look, I'm here on Sundays. There's people here all the time. Seriously, you can't turn on this station or any of Studio A or B and not get people to listen to. But that means that there's tons of people out there that want to share, that want to give this information, that want to do these things. None of us are getting paid. To me, this is my payment. That I really, every time I do one of these shows, I get nervous. Every time. I've been doing this for years and I get nervous. Every single time I get nervous. And it's because I get excited that I can do this stuff. And I know that it's like I can sense that we're all here and that we're all here for the exact same thing. And like I said, take and leave whatever I said. Take it or leave it, it's fine. But the information is there. It's very easy to find. Nobody's trying to hide it. Nobody's trying to do any of that. Okay, hold on one second. I'm sorry, I'm just reading something. What? Okay, so I'm sorry. Do you have a solution you think would solve the problems that cause? What would you think could work out better if you need something? Okay, 20 minutes. All right. Okay, somebody asked, what's your background in learning to fight and want to fight for others? Okay, because I didn't know. That's why. Because I'm a mother and because all I did was hang out. I did nothing else. I did nothing. I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about what my kids ate. I didn't care about anything. When I found out until my kids were 5 that they had a disability, automatically everybody said that they had absolutely no clue what really brought it on. But while they were doing that, they were kind of pointing at me, like I was doing something, like it had to be something from me. It couldn't have been the hospital. It could have been, they were in ICU for a month. It could have been anything they did while they were in intensive care. It could have been anything that had to be something that they needed to trace back to me. That it had to be something. That there was no way that there was some kind of a weird anomaly, you know what I mean? And they wound up with a disability. So it turned out to be that until years later, after I took them out of school, started homeschooling, they were doing like a Pavlov, if you guys know what the Pavlov experiment is, and they do it with the kids in the school with the bell. So I noticed that they were trying to integrate my boys into full classes. And I knew that they weren't ready for that. They didn't want to hear what I thought. They were like, we have your kids for 8 hours a day. It's up to us. You can't say anything, blah, blah, blah. And I'll do a show a couple weeks about that, about schools, by the way. Anyway, so I had to actually start seeing that they were coming home on, what's that? Honor roll. Honor roll. I actually did things with my kids when they got home, and I said, how the hell are they on honor roll when they can't read well? And they were like, no, it was because they give me the less issue. They don't give me issues. They were giving them candy. I mean, literally like pets. They were being taught like pets to behave, and then set as an example to the other kids on how you should behave. So of course my kids were getting picked on because everybody's like, oh, look, the teacher's pet. And I was like, oh no, something's happening. I went to the school and I was like, what's up with the honor roll? Seriously, what's going on with honor roll? How is it that they are on honor roll? Then when they explained it to me, a week later, pulled them right out of school. And they no longer needed speech therapy. They no longer needed any of that. Took them home and I said, you know what? We're going to learn. We're going to start from scratch all the way to the beginning. And the first thing I did was bought Hooked on Phonics. They didn't know how to pronounce. Ask kids today if they know how to pronounce anything. And the lack of teaching is not because there aren't enough teachers or there's too many kids or we can't build enough schools. There's so many empty schools, it's ridiculous. It has nothing to do with that. It's the amount of conditioning. Your kids, if they come home and they say, I don't know what to do, and I was in school 8 hours today, and I don't know what to do at the end of the day, and you need to sit with your kid 5 hours during the night, you're tired, your kid's tired, you had to cook, whatever your life is, okay? And they don't know what's going on. You have to ask yourself, what the hell were you doing today? What were you doing? What could you possibly have been doing for 8 hours? And you'll start realizing that they're making them stand in lines. They're doing all kinds of different activities that are causing them to just learn compliance, learn how to stand in a straight line, learn to sit on time, learn commands much easier. Ask a kid, just walk me through your day. And you will literally lose it and say, are you serious? This is every day? Your kid should not have to do homework with your kid who's sitting in school for 8 hours. The only people that should be required to do more work after they've been somewhere for 8 hours are managers and probably like CEOs and presidents of companies. Not kindergarten kids, not kids in the first and the second grade. None of that stuff should actually be that way. But they don't tell you that. You're not supposed to learn that. You're not supposed to know that. You're not supposed to communicate with your kids. Your kid is tired. You're tired. They need us disassociated from each other. So when they put us in these categories like they are doing now, we all fit real nice and comfy. Real comfortable. You're like, man, how did they know all the things that I like? How do you think? Because we taught them. We're literally giving it away. We're not even trying. We're just saying, you know what, make it easier for us, make it more convenient for us, throw out all kinds of stuff into the media and into all of this stuff, keep them entertained, which I don't even know how the hell that's entertainment, but keep them entertained. Let's scare the crap out of them. Let's tell them Trump might be president. Do you know how much time we spend thinking about that guy? Too much. Like literally, I still can't believe that I hear his name in the media. That guy should have been shut down the day he tried to sign up. They should have already saw him and been like, nope, throw that in the garbage. Get out of here, you crazy person. We don't listen to things like that. This is important. Our country is important. Of course, we're not going to put you out on a podium and let you run your mouth about immigration. What, are we crazy? But that's exactly what happened. Exactly what happened. So we stay entertained all day long thinking, Oh man, look at the choices. You know what I mean? And what do? You get depressed and then you don't give a crap anymore. And then you're like, ah, screw it. Whatever. Let them put whoever, and then we don't really have to worry about anything anymore. No, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it's supposed to work. Okay, because I guarantee you the powers that be, when they have a big corporate meeting, I guarantee you they need to be up to par. And they wouldn't put somebody like a Ben Carson or a Donald Trump in the running. So why is it okay for us? Why is it okay to say that they can do what they want to do to us? That we're less important than them? That their food can be better, their homes can be better, their lives can be better? And mind you, I'm not saying you need more money to buy more food. I have a ton right there on my steps. I have my coffee containers filled with scraps that I buy from the supermarket. So I got ginger growing inside, scallions. You buy scallions at the supermarket, you cut it, and then you put it in dirt. You know what happens? More scallions come out. But they don't want to tell you that. How are we living in a place millions of people are starving, but we're throwing away food because it doesn't look pretty? Okay? If you think that's not a form of control, we treat people like we treat fruit because we throw people away, or we mistreat people for them not being pretty either. So it turns into something completely more different. Make the connections. They're doing it. What if we were always a step ahead? What if we knew the next thing? Okay? Let's say that 6 months from now, when the census, I'm not really sure when the census comes, but what if you told somebody about this so-called census thing, where they're going to be in your life and ask you all kinds of personal questions? And by the way, I did the survey for the men because I thought it was hilarious that they said that men wouldn't look for help. But they also do it for children. They ask all the people in your household, and they have private conversations. They don't have conversations with the group, with the family as a unit. They ask you on an individual basis. So this is happening to your whole entire family. But now that you know about this, you can go tell somebody else. So when they get this, you can tell them, get the hell out of my house. What, are you kidding me? Nope, I won't be part of the problem. Nope, I won't be part of your system. No, it's just not going to happen. What happens if we all said no? Then what's going to happen? Do you think they're going to try to take care of us as one because we said no? No. They'll threaten us, and they'll try their damnedest to do what they're already doing. We're constantly living in fear. We have a whole part within ourselves that is turning into at least society with Stockholm syndrome. We love our captors, we love them. We're like, oh, I feel so, I feel so fuzzy and warm every time I see nonsense on TV. Maybe they're talking about me. They're not talking about you, not even a little bit. They're talking about your situation or what they want you to do. But when they're talking about nice fuzzy things like new jobs and safer places and taking better care of the elderly and giving to people that actually need it, they're not talking about us. They never were. And if we don't wake up to that real soon, this is going to turn into something else entirely more scary than ever. And we're not going to be able to change it. It'll be too late. By the time my kids get old enough, it'll be far too late for them to change anything. So if you have a child that draws outside the lines, better get that fixed. Your niece not exactly memorizing those homework definitions, you better get that fixed. Your grandmother having a hard time remembering to take her medicine, you better not tell the doctors. That's literally the system that we live in, because we keep showing them that we need them so badly that it'll never get any better, that we need constant oversight. You know what needs oversight? Wall Street needs oversight. Congress needs oversight. The powers that be that keep getting us involved with all of these altercations all over the world, that needs oversight. My child doesn't need oversight. My child doesn't need to be told that they're drawing out of the lines, or that they're not writing with their right hand, because my daughter went through that. So it goes and it turns into something different. We need to stand up and say, you're not running it. The end. So I have about 10 minutes left. Apparently, let's see. We've got Wavical, I think. That's it. Did I say that name right? I hope I did. I'm sorry if I didn't. Yes, it is the Babushka lady. Very, very right. Thank you so very much. Okay, so the question was, what was the nickname that the media gave to a woman who was photographed and filmed during the Kennedy assassination that, according to the evidence, had the best and closest video camera at the time of what would have really happened to Kennedy, who, of course, it was never actually identified, came forward, or was found? The answer was the Babushka lady. Now, the name was given to her from the red scarf that she had on her head that resembled what older women in Russia had. Babushka means, in Russian, older woman. And it made it easy to find her in the footage that was taken. So the questions that are concerning is who she is, right? We still don't know who she is. Why did she never come forward? Why did she continue to take photos unfazed by the shots fired? Like, she was still standing. She was the only one. Everybody was ducked on the floor. And she was the only one still standing, pointing directly at the vehicle with the camera on, right? What happened to her? How come she was never identified, never came forward? And of course, who has the video? The whole thing showed her walking. I mean, there's so many shots of this lady, it's crazy. She, I'm sure, has the best footage known, and nobody has a single clue where she is, and she's barely ever really talked about. So thank you so much to Wavical. I think I'm saying that right. I'm going into the chat room when the show is over, and you're more than welcome to send me a private message with the question, the trivia question for next week, which I know that's going to be awesome. Of course, let's see. Just trying to make sure I get everything done. I have to thank you guys again. I absolutely adore being here with you guys. It turns it. My Sundays turn into fun days, even though I still get scared getting on here. I love the support from the station, and I'm hoping that you guys will actually have a chance to support us as well. 70, I think it's 77, don't quote me on that, hosts. That's a lot of people. And the fact that everybody's here, everybody's like a family, everybody sharing their actual research, their stuff with you guys. So, of course, this is a member-funded station. I told you guys for the last 2 weeks about the banners. Again, the banners are, they start at $10. The holidays are coming up. I did tell you guys about the 8 gig thumb drive. Now, what's awesome is that you can unplug it. Like, I'm not unplug it. It looks like a bullet, and then you like twist it out, and then you plug it into a computer. So, and I guarantee you, it does not matter if you have a laptop or you have an older computer. If you have a USB port, then it will absolutely work. My favorite part of it, of course, is the home canning and the food preservation websites that are available offline. That's almost impossible to find on a regular basis. So if somebody's going to need this, and like I said, it's only $50. This is a lifetime, and by the way, the lifetime syncing service, that you're not going to find anywhere either. But the fact that it comes with all of this stuff already in it, you don't have to do anything. All you got to do is plug it in. All of those things will be needed. I know that a lot of people are, I think we're still scaring the crap out of people now about coronal mass ejections, where the grids will just go out. So even if you have this stuff and you're like, oh, I don't need that, it's already on my computer, it matters because your internet won't work, and most of these things you're going to need it. So this way you plug it in, even if nothing's really connecting the way that you need to, or your internet service provider is down at that time. This is something that you could still use, and I'm going to order one, by the way, and I'm definitely going to be telling you guys about the seeds. So that's going to really be helpful. $50. You go to freedomslips.com, right? And then there's the tabs on the top where it has like chat and home. Go to the support us tab. You can order from there, and then you're also going to see an entire list of all of the stuff that's available. So besides the seeds, which I'm going to get that too, because I live out where the weather is constantly hot. It's my first year here, so I know I'm going to be able to grow tons of that and grow it for my neighbors as well. I think we should all seriously participate in doing a little something for everybody. That's a big thing with the being helpful and the just the I want to say that the outright caring for people. Like I said, anytime you walk into a room and a bunch of people are arguing about these things, say, hey, did you hear about the human zoos? And the people are going to be like, what? No way, that was it. Yeah, that's a thing. It's a real thing. 2 places that did it first was the St. Louis Fair, as a matter of fact, the first St. Louis fair or expedition, they used to call it back then, the very first had a human zoo, and the Bronx Zoo as well. So I know I was never able to actually see the Bronx Zoo the same again. So I was like, you can't be for real. Stuff like this shouldn't happen, and it shouldn't have happened in the 1900s. Seriously, you would think you would hear about this stuff in the 1500s or the 1200s. Man, I'd accept it if it was in the year 1. And then we're like, yeah, that was to be expected. But seriously, till recently, no. That's completely unacceptable. And the fact that we don't know about it, we do now, completely unacceptable. Of course. Thank you for listening. My show is on Sunday between 9 and 11 Eastern, Esoteric Truth on Revolution Radio. We also have Why Not Do What You Can, and he is between 4 and 6, and also in the chat room right now. Thank you so much, Tony, for everything. We have tons and tons of shows. The schedule page is always open. The players, Studio A and Studio B, are always open and on. We also have Nighthawk's music in the middle when you go into the chat room. Always, always, always love being here. If you're interested in leaving me any comments or any information, maybe want to be a guest or throw in some stuff. I'm going to be doing stuff about movies and documentaries that we're all going to watch and discuss during the show every couple of weeks. So just, if you want to keep up to the stuff that I'm doing and the stuff that I'm going to be doing and bringing to Revolution Radio, you can visit me on Facebook at Esoteric Truth Radio. And then just go look it up, press the like button, and I update as much as I possibly can. You could also visit my website, which is esoterictruthradio.com. And there I also have a support us page for people that, are doing their own thing. Nobody pays for anything. Same thing here. I'm not asking anybody for anything. Just show love, share freedom slips as much as you possibly can, because they can also be found on Facebook. So give their page a like as well. Just show support. Let's be a little bit more open. Let's talk a little bit more, and let's make sure that we participate. Start sharing. I hope to have changed at least something today. Maybe some of you guys have.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message. Revolution Radio.
You don't see it, do you? How close we are to absolute chaos. The sick ones are sitting on their fat asses, eating and drinking themselves into a stupor, polluting the world without a second thought while it goes down the toilet. Nobody wants to do the nasty work. The shit that we all just think about. Most good citizens are just along for the ride and then bitch and moan and complain about everything when it doesn't work out.
Not me.
Get it done.
Revolution Radio, where we do the nasty work. www.freedomslips.com.
Like I said,
Enjoy your extra big ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another?
Extra big ass fries.
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
Come
trouble.
on. My kids are starving.